Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bonsoir à tous. Je suis désolé, je parle pas bien français. Cependant, je vais essayer de me pour parler français. Non, c'est pas problème pour moi parce que je parle anglais. Assalamualaikum and welcome back to another session of Stories and Poetry with me, Arief Subhan, here at the world's best cafe, in my opinion, Muka Tamantun Dr. Ismail. It's a pleasure to be here with you again, and inshallah, today we will be diving into stories and poetry. Different texts for different people, but ultimately same hearts, inshallah. The topic for tonight, the theme for tonight is detachment. A very important topic because in the world today we are very much attached to a lot of things. We are attached with our material possessions, we are attached with our friends, we are attached with memories, we are also attached with ourselves, which is also quite problematic because when we are attached with ourselves, we tend to be very angsty. And we can also be quite anxious because we think about what's in the future, and we are angsty because we are angry about what happened to us in the past. And hopefully, by reading some of the texts tonight, we can learn from these texts and apply it to our daily lives. But before we proceed, we could start with the speech by Charlie Chaplin, the great dictator. Soldiers, do not give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, who enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. What this means is, do not give yourselves to brutes, people who despise you, entrap you, ensnare you in the reality of this dunya, which is essentially a form of temporary passageway for the musafir, which is the wayfarer or the traveler. Inshallah, it's a reminder to myself first and foremost, and to all of you, inshallah. Now, we would look at Saviors of Islamic Spirit by Sheikh Abul Hassan Ali Nadwi, revised and edited by Abdul Rahman ibn Yusuf Mangera. Inshallah, we will benefit from this text. It is the story of the great luminary in Islam, which is Imam al-Ghazali, the writer of Ihya Ulumuddin, with other texts as well. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, this is chapter 7. Imam Abu Hamid Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Tusi al-Ghazali was born in Tus at Tabaran in 450/1058. He lost his father while still very young. Although his father entrusted him to the care of a mystic friend, he got himself admitted in a seminary for receiving education. Ghazali first studied in the Shafi'i school of jurisprudence from Sheikh Ahmad al-Radakhani in his hometown, and then moved on to Jurjan to continue his studies with Abu Nasr al-Ismaili. Now, this is moving forward. We know and understand that al-Ghazali had an intellectual crisis, a crisis that stifled his progress in terms of a spiritual nourishment that he yearned for. So Ghazali's intellectual crisis, during the period of prosperity, of fame and accomplishment to which most others could only aspire, it would have been natural for al-Ghazali to have lived contentedly as others might have done. But for such a man of lofty ideals, creative genius and intellectual grit as Ghazali, it was unthinkable to rest satisfied merely with position and prestige. There can be no denying the fact that this very internal conflict and disquietude, the Promethean quest, made him a renewer or mujaddid of the faith. However, history can offer but few striking examples where one abandoned, key point here, abandoned a brilliant career, fame, prestige, position for satisfaction, and yes, fame, career, brilliant career, money, wealth, but he had a very strong dissatisfaction of the soul. So Ghazali has himself described the deep inner struggle which forced him to abandon all worldly possessions, including his teaching position in Baghdad, and to withdraw into a life of aestheticism and solitary contemplation. And he writes in Al-Munkith min al-Dalal, which is deliverance from error. From the days of my early youth, I had a critical disposition. I met the people belonging to every cult and creed, inquired about their faith and their tenets, which in due course made me disregard the beaten path. The faith I had inculcated in me from my childhood was shaken, and I thought the children born to Jews and Christians too developed a similar conviction in their own religions. Indeed, knowledge should not admit of any doubt in regard to its veracity, in the same way, for instance, that I know that 10 is more than 3. So moving forward in this text, Al-Ghazali also mentions that there are different types of knowledge that one could attain. That is the knowledge of the sciences, which is divided into 6, which is mathematics, logic, physics, politics, ethics, and metaphysics. But the gist of this story, Al-Ghazali, his intellectual crisis, is that even though he remained in a position, or he was in a position of fame and prestige due to his knowledge and acumen, he decided to move away from it because he had some internal strife and turmoil and questions with regards to reality. So what he did was he tried to remove himself from society, and he abandoned his teaching position in Baghdad, well-established university, and he just left it. He left the world so that he could cleanse his heart. There is this need to purify the heart, which is not the physical heart as mentioned in previous episodes, but it is the heart, the Ayn al-Qalb, which is the spiritual heart that needs to be refined, that needs to be improved on, so that one can understand the concept of abandonment in this world, so that we reach a sense of attainment in the hereafter. So this is important because we need to detach ourselves from our material positions. I mean, for some of us it's very difficult, I understand, because for me too it is difficult, because we spend money on the things that we have. Sometimes our friends gift us certain things and we have an attachment because we appreciate those things. However, we have to understand that appreciation should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not for the item itself, because everything that we see, we touch, we hear, we smell, and we intuit with our senses comes from Allah's gift to us, which is to understand that this reality is indeed temporal. So we understand this reality by understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the greatest spiritual station that one can ever attain, inshallah. And it is important for us to not be too attached with friends as well, because if we are attached with friends for the sake of that friendship itself, then that is a problem. But if we are attached with our friends for the sake of Allah, then inshallah, even in separation, we are together. This is very important, because as a wayfarer, as a musafir, we go here and there, left and right, north and south. But at the end of the day, we are on our own, and we can understand that even when we're on our own, our friends are always in our hearts. So the detachment comes in a physical form, but in the sense of in the metaphysical sense, as it were, we have to understand that this friendship or any other relationship comes with Allah first in mind. So without further ado, we will go on the recitation of poetry by Farid Uddin Attar. This is a classic, I think, The Conference of the Birds. Bismillah. The Sheikh and the Dog. A dog brushed up against a sheikh who made no move to draw his skirts in or evade. The filthy stray, a puzzled passerby who noticed his behavior, asked him why. He said, "The dog is filthy, as you see, but what is outside him is inside me. What's clear on him is hidden in my heart. Why should such close companions stay apart? If inward filth is slight or if it's great, the outcome is the same disgusting state. If straws impede you or a mountain top, where is the difference if you have to stop?" MashaAllah, this is a really compelling piece of poetry. It's very, very short, but its message is long, its message is far, and its message is wide. Because the story here is of the sheikh and the dog, where the dog is considered to be filthy, but the filth is external, which in a way can be seen as our internal filth, which is of a heart that is not refined. So it is important for us to understand that the dog, even though it is filthy in the physical form, it also represents our state, our spiritual state, if not refined and not in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is mashallah, I'm still thinking about it really, because this line here, if straws impede you or a mountain top, where is the difference if you have to stop? This is a question really of being present and understanding that presence is a gift, right? As cliche or redundant as it may be, that's why it's called the present, because it is a gift to us. And mashallah, it is a gift that everyone has at every instance and every moment. If only we realize that reality and existence is a gift because we comprehend it with the senses that has been gifted to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On a personal note, I probably would like to share a story of mine, a story that is based on personal experience. I was going through a rough patch in my life, as with any other individual really, and I wanted to have a new horizon. I wanted to see new things because I thought that I would be able to forget about my issues or my problems or whatever challenges that I faced. So Alhamdulillah, I was in a different position. I was in a different country really, a different landscape and horizon. And I thought that I could forget about the problems that I had. But I realized that in that moment and in that instance, it doesn't matter where you are. What's most important is your inner state and inner well-being. Because if it is not improved on, or if it's not good, wherever you may be in this world, in this dunya, you will never find contentment. And it is a struggle that everyone who has lived, who is living, and who will live will have to go through, has gone through, and is going through, because it is the human condition. This is what all the philosophers of days past have in mind, this problem of existence, of meaning, of comprehending reality. And it is with this notion that we have to understand that attachment is the real killer. Attachment to worldly things, attachment to memories, attachment to places, spaces, what have you, is what causes a lot of problems, because we give ourselves, essentially rubbing ourselves and rubbing ourselves to these moments and grazing ourselves through life's vicissitudes, the different experiences with friends and family, acquaintances, strangers, all to be rendered memory at the end of the day. So we need to create and gather as many good memories as we can, as many as we can, and inshallah it will be good memories because it will relate us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that, I would like to remind myself first and foremost, before reminding everyone, that we have to try our best. No matter if I sound or we sound like a broken record, it's important for us to remind ourselves and remind our friends and family about the more important things in life. We can do away with distractions. Distractions are there only to distract us from the important things. But when we are on our own and we sat with ourselves, we need to know what is good and where we are headed, inshallah. So with that, I'd like to close this episode, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to have you. Inshallah, I'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.